In this intriguing excerpt from the Metaphysical Chat live stream, we discuss the topic of Jesus being a martyr. But was he really? Stick around and listen to what Jesus himself has to say on the topic. Okay, so Amanda asks, you've been worried about the higher reason for Jesus being martyred. It seems that it contributed a lot of victimization complex for people, and you've been wondering about it as a non-Christian. So I will ask about that, but I want to plant this seed first. And that is, we don't really know if Jesus was martyred or not. We have stories, and we have different stories from different places that tell a different tale. One of which is that he didn't die. Here's one story I'll just relay to you quickly. This is from a channeled book. Anna, grandmother of Jesus, channeled this book. And I read it, and it felt pretty real to me. It resonated with a lot of things that I've channeled myself. So doesn't mean it's 100% true, but here's what she shared. Jesus and Mary and Grandma were a part of the Essenes, and they practiced a lot of higher level spiritual work, some of which involved controlling the body. They were able to bilocate, which means being in more than one place at a time, so they could at will travel with their soul somewhere else and be seen, which, when the disciples saw Jesus on the road to Damascus when he was supposedly dead, he was bilocating. His body was still somewhere else, but he was there and he could converse with them and they could see him. So that was an ability they had. They also had the ability to slow their body functions down so that they could appear to be dead. And then later, friends or helpers could come and using these special herbal concoctions and whatever else they used, I don't know, they would revive them. So the story from Grandma is that Jesus did that so that he wouldn't die, so that he could, preserve his life because he had more work to do. So he appeared to be dead, but he wasn't. And it takes about that 3 days for the process to go through, I guess. Don't totally understand that. But then on the third day, the women of the Essenes came and they did their rituals with him and they revived him. So maybe that's true, maybe it's not, that's up to you. But maybe Jesus wasn't as martyred as we think he was. And it was a really vicious time. People just randomly killed other people without much thought about it. Life seemed to have a different value back then, which is a little hard to comprehend. So now let's just ask about it. So angels, can you help Amanda and the rest of us to understand the story of Jesus and being martyred? And that seems to have contributed a lot of victim energy. Can you just comment on that? Enlighten us a little bit. So Jesus came with a specific purpose, as all souls do. And his purpose was teaching love, enlightenment. He came to help the people ascend to a higher level of spiritual development, just kind of like what we're doing right now, right? And he just happened to be the spiritual teacher at the time, much like Buddha was in his time. Krishna was in his time. Muhammad was in his time. Yogananda. So these great master teachers came with the message of love. And there were always people who were threatened by that message and would strike out in whatever way they could. Now, because they were enlightened masters, they didn't carry victim energy. That's really important. Okay, cool. So they didn't carry victim energy. They were able to live, function, and serve out their purpose with sort of a protection bubble around them because they weren't attracting the victim energy in the same way we were talking about earlier. Okay, so where's that going? So while we might interpret what they went through as victimization, it was not. They knew they had a finite amount of time because they came as human, and that life is limited while the soul is not. The soul is eternal. So they understood all of that when they incarnated They kept the consciousness of who they were as a soul. Unlike what we're doing, we come in and we're pretty much unconscious of it. At least we had been until recent times when more people are retaining more of that consciousness. Okay, so anything else you want to say about that? Jesus did not consider himself a victim in any way, shape, or form. He felt very empowered by what he came to do. He would have liked to have done more, but in retrospect, he did a lot. And that is something that he can be pleased with and carry forward into successive lifetimes. And yeah, I think that's all they have to say on that. So if you happen to read that book by Grandma, she talks about how he went on, he got married, he had children, continued living quite a number of years after what he supposedly died. So we don't really know. We weren't there. All we can do is, take the information we have. You can ask your own angels and see what they tell you about it, meditate on it. Could be a really cool meditation to do, just to see what you get on it and see where it takes you. There's a lot yet for us to learn about this. And that's something that my angels have been talking about recently. It's like we're moving up in the levels that you're connecting to in your meditations, which means you're going to get different kinds of experiences. So that's already happening, just starting, but it's going to go faster now.